and welcome to the Run Talks podcast. It's a Renaissance Festival industry podcast presented by the Digital Run Fair. My name is Nicole Skelly, and I perform as the Gwendolyn in the Gwendolyn Show.
And I am Olivia Harding, and I perform as Liv the Druid in Music the Gathering.
And our special guest today is Natalie Grist. She performs as Pippsy Pinwheel in the Pinwheel Sideshow.
Hi! Yeah. Welcome. So for those who don't know, can you explain the nature of your show and what sort of goes on in your show? Because it's fascinating and wonderful and fantastical.
Absolutely. So I do the Pinwheel Sideshow, and it has sideshow in the name because I'm a sideshow performer. Let's see. I want to get my info correct on this. The term sideshow comes from when circuses would come up and all the weird stuff that they couldn't have in the tent, they would have a side tent, i.e. the side show. So all the weird stuff that they would bring people in to watch. And so the human blockhead is where I take a nail and I put it in my nose. I'll put mouse traps on my tongue and I swallow a sword. So do a bunch of weird stuff. Impressive and dangerous, weird stuff. There we go.
It's really awesome to watch. It's a really great show.
And I asked you this once backstage, and just hearing you talk about it is so cool because I think about learning a skill, and I think when you learn to ride a bike, first you ride a tricycle, and then you have training wheels, and then you're riding a bike. It doesn't seem like there are training wheels when it comes to swallowing swords. So how did you decide to just launch into something that doesn't have training wheels like that? Or how do you go about it? How do you learn a skill like that?
That's on my list of questions to ask you too.
Oh my God, brain meld.
I know.
Well, I'll tell you right now, if you had training wheels, it'd be a lot harder to swallow. Take the training wheels off of it.
I'm going to get you a sword with training wheels now.
Put training wheels on a sword.
It has to be down at the hilt so it works.
Right.
I had a kid go, "You didn't swallow the whole sword." And I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "The handle." And I'm like, "I'm not a snake. I can't unhinge."
You just go, 1 second,
Yeah, right.
It's a learned skill. I'd been wanting to learn it, and it took me 3 years of interest, and eventually I got it down.
Literally.
Yeah.
Brain meld.
No. So, and I was going to ask similar to that, what did you see or hear or learn about that you were like, oh, I want to try to do that? And for any of your skills, the human blockhead or the sword swallowing or any of the other ones.
Well, and I just because I'm answering this doesn't mean go out and try this to anybody watching. So your question again, what made me want to learn?
Yeah, what did you see or hear that you were like, I think I want to swallow a sword?
Well, when I was a kid, my family took me to the Florida State Fair, and that's where I saw my very first sideshow, the World of Wonders, which they are still touring and running today. I think they're the oldest still running, but go do your research, everybody. But I would go every year just to see them. They were my favorite part of the state fair, and eventually became friends with them. And a lot of the things I do in my show, some of the things I'm genetically disposed to do, able to do. Yeah.
Let you do that.
Sorry.
No,
Warning.
it's okay.
I have connective tissue disorder, so I'm some of the things I do are a little easier. But for sword swallowing, I really wanted to have a skill that's very sideshow and not a lot of people do. And I just am I want to learn this. I'm going to learn this. And yeah, I trained every morning. I didn't wake up in the morning, guys. Don't.
Trained every afternoon.
Every afternoon. We got to wake up at the crack of noon.
And so you say don't try this at home, don't go out there and do this, but let's say someone did want to become the next you. What is your what would be your number one this is my number one safety precaution for anyone starting to learn one of these skills?
That's a great question.
Go to more sideshows, go to more events. I believe there's the Coney Island sideshow school. So like you can literally go if you want to, if sideshow is what you want to do. You can find like classes and workshops and stuff, but honestly, like my answer would be immerse yourself in it, learn about it, and like don't just go, I'm gonna just do this at a bar. Do what you want, but my personal like take on it is really immerse yourself in it and go and support other performers and like by going and doing.
From what I understand too, or what I think I understand is that, especially with swords followers, because I know swords followers from Maryland, and you know them too. Like it's a community of and sideshow performers as well. Like you all kind of know each other in a similar way to like festival participants, I guess, that we know other people that live across the country from us because we do a similar thing.
Yeah.
So immersing yourself in it and finding those people that are near you, and then they're going to know other people and recommend you to other things and and then it goes and goes and goes.
But yeah, I never recommend somebody just go try and swallow a sword. So
don't,
because you are a sane human being most of the time.
I was going to ask you, Pippsy Pinwheel, and I asked you right before because I always we share the stage in the Scarborough Renaissance Festival, and when I say her shows after mine, I always say Pippsy Pinwheel. No, it's the Pinwheel Sideshow. Oh my gosh. So I finally asked just today, like before we started recording, is your character's name Pippsy Pinwheel? Because I don't know what her last name is. And she said yes. So I was like, all right. So I was wanted to ask where you came up with the name Pippsy Pinwheel.
They came separately of the other and then eventually met. Pippsy came from when I was on local cast at the Bay Area Renaissance Festival. They're like, okay, you guys need to come up with a character name. And I'm like, we can come up with our own character name? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, so I can spell it any way I want? They're like, yes, because I'm dyslexic and not the best when it comes to spelling. So I'm like, haha, something only I'll be able to really understand. So Pippsy was originally spelled Pippscy, Pippsky. And the backstory to that was my character, my parents didn't really give me a name, so they would always say that I'm pesky, but I misinterpreted it as Pippsy. Pippsky. And so that's my sad backstory on the character name. But then down the road, eventually I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take the C out when I was off local cast and just Pippsy. That, and then I'm like, I want a last name, what am I gonna do? And I was going through my family album, and there was a picture of me on my very first birthday being held by a clown while I was holding a pinwheel, and I'm like, that's it's Pinwheel is the last name, so Pippsy Pinwheel.
I love it.
It's great.
Thanks.
I love that.
That is great.
So what is the most recent skill that you've learned that is now in your show?
Most recent skill that I've learned.
The double beard stroke.
I know, I'm like double strokey beard. I only know one.
I think that's it. That's the trick.
That's to say that I've learned anything new, which I don't think I have. I'm trying to learn some new things. I have
you want to talk about those?
That's what I was going to tell you. I was going to say.
Yeah.
Concertina.
Yeah, I have a concertina that I'll bring out and ask people to, what would you like to hear me play? And it's always going to be Jurassic Park, because that's the only thing I know, is the intro to Jurassic Park.
Which I love. And chanter.
And yeah, bagpipe. I'm trying to learn bagpipe, so I'll bring out the chanter and do the first half of Scotland the Brave with no embellishments and bad. So
Yes.
but I'm learning. I'm actually trying to learn those things. For new skills that I'm working on, I'd like to knife throwing, and this is just me saying like things I'm interested in, not that I. And again, knife throwing, I can just throw it, and
That's
there I did
throwing.
it. Didn't stick into anything, but
Be hysterical.
boom, done.
Oh dear.
Not
I'm
wanting
glad
to
that
do
it didn't stick into anything and not just like the wrong things.
Right.
The audience.
Yeah. Don't throw the
Yes.
knives towards the audience.
Not again.
That's no.
But yeah, so like I would like to start learning some new skills to incorporate into my show and just have more variety. But right now, it's just the finger bending, human blockhead with a spoon, mental floss, shooting water out of my eye because snort it up my nose and shoot it out my eye, and the
Balloon animals.
balloon animal. Balloon animal, mental floss, a mouse trap on the tongue, and then sometimes I'll pull out my bigger animal trap and I'll put my whole hand in it, and then I swallow a sword. So it's a lot of things for one show.
Yeah, it's you never get bored watching her show because it flows so nicely from one thing to another, and everything's just a little bit different, obviously, because all the things she mentioned. So yeah, so that's fun. There was another thing I was going to say that you do in your show that I
Does it
forget.
involve staples?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Thanks, Liv.
At the very end, when I'm collecting tips, if someone has a 20, I'll usually staple it to myself. I can also be bribed to not staple myself for the same amount or more.
Oh, that's smart.
But these lovely bruises are from that.
What made you want to staple anything? What made you want to staple yourself?
Well,
And was it always money based?
yes.
Fair.
It is for the money. No, because that's another. It's a staple part of my routine. But not my joke.
Oh.
But it's a weird thing that people are like, no, you're not gonna, and they like to watch, like to see it happen, because people are weird and crazy, and those are the ones I get to come to my show because they're the most fun.
I'm curious because, like, not that your show is like a haunted house, but I'm sure it elicits very, I know, right? Very different responses than like watching a music show or something. In the same way that like fear hits people in a haunted house. Have you ever gotten just an extremely bizarre response to your show?
I'm like, have I gotten, what would be a bizarre response? Because I'm prepared for when people want to leave, because they didn't know what they were getting into. That's part of my drinking game, is like if somebody walks away. we can tap more on that in a bit. Nice. I've had okay. I had a woman email me say that, like, I know it says you're not a role model, but today in your show, you know, I'm happy my kid watched because a woman fainted, which is also part of the drinking game, but it wasn't because of me. She didn't faint because of me. It was because it was so hot out and people, they're not drinking enough water, and she just, like, I was making the balloon animal and I turned around and I just saw this woman, like,
Oh,
so
no.
I'm like, oh no. And I just stopped my show and I went to a booth and I was like, we need EMTs here right now. I went back and I'm like, well, guys, I'm not going to pretend like this isn't happening. So EMTs are on their way. It's the best thing we can do. So let's just do ask me something you want to know about Sideshow. Waited for them to come and kind of finish the show. But she's like, I know that wasn't easy, but, like, you know, you're kind of a role model to my kid. And I'm like, no. Okay, just this once, I'll allow it. So I guess
I love that
bizarre reaction.
Oh yeah,
that's great. I love that. So yeah, we need to know the full.
Sorry.
I was just gonna say we need to hear the full drinking game at some point.
Now can be that point.
Mm-hmm.
okay.
You don't have to, and also you don't have to perform it if you don't want to, I guess, right?
You can if you want to.
You can if you want to, but I don't, we're not like, do your show.
Right now.
Go. Why aren't you doing it?
I am. The drinking game. So the drinking game came about because I'm like, all right, this isn't going to be for everybody, so let's make it fun if these things happen. So, like, my drinking game is if anybody winces. So, like, if you're like, you make a face, you close your eyes, you go, ew, gross, no, everyone takes a drink. If anybody pukes, I tell them where the trash cans are. We take a drink. If anybody faints, we call first aid. And then we drink. And then lastly, like, if anybody leaves in disgust. Here's why this is important. I'm deceptively adorable. This probably isn't the show you thought it was going to be. Here at the Pinwheel Sideshow, we're going to find out who has a strong stomach and who has a weird search history. And we'll take a drink. And that's the drinking game.
Amazing.
The phrase deceptively adorable is one of my favorite things that you do or say.
I like to think of it as like Pee-wee's Playhouse before like the pilot, because if you really watch Pee-wee's Playhouse, it's not a kid's show.
I love that. I love Pee-wee's Playhouse.
And I'm like, kids are more than welcome to come to the show, but I'm not like specifically geared towards children. I'm like, this is a fun show. My jokes will be over their head enough. Viewer discretion.
Nice.
Yeah.
I just realized that all three of us then have a drinking game of sorts attached to our shows.
What does that say about us?
Is this an intervention?
Right? Yeah. Because
Natalie, we've brought you here.
Nicole, is yours simply just take a drink? Or are there other elements?
Everyone take a drink of your drink. I say it, we do it. Sometimes it's when I mess up. Or like I fumble several words in a row, and I'll be like I mess up, because I do that on my live streams too. It's like if I mess up, read a bunch of words wrong, forget where I started, everyone take a drink of your drink. And in my show, it's just simply drink now. Hydration is important.
For Music the Gathering, it's anytime we mess up the words, of course. Anytime we yip, whoop, or huh, or my favorite is anytime a boy dies in our song, and we always clarify, like, not like during our song a boy dies in our immediate space. It's like, no, in the lyrics of the song the boy dies. And that's also fun because we have one song where the same boy dies twice. So that's a good one.
What? How does he come back to life?
Mm-hmm.
He does. As a zombie or as a human?
No. As a miracle, as a little angel creature.
Oh,
and then he dies again. But spoiler alert, he wasn't actually really alive. It was a witch casting visions.
God.
Well,
Listen to Seeing on level 3. So Natalie, I was about to ask, where have you performed outside of Renaissance fairs? And I know that you're sort of like dabbling in some street stuff, correct?
Yes. I sure am. Let's see. Outside of festivals, I do like burlesque shows, and there's this amazing event called Theater Bazaar that I got to be a part of. And when it comes to like that's outside of fair, but like really outside is I'm going to Scotland again.
Woo!
I went to Scotland for the first time last year. Just to check out the Fringe Festival, and apparently the performers were not going to just let me check it out. They're like, no, you're going to also do this. And I'm like, but I don't have registration. And they're like, here you go. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't have any props. And they're like, what do you need? And I'm like, this. And they're like, here you go. And I'm like, oh, because I'd never busked on the streets before. And so I just went and did it. And then like a lot of them had really great advice, and I could like in real time feel myself getting better at it by doing it. So this year I'm going with like, okay, I know what I need, I know what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it, because it was so much fun. And I really like learning like street versus stage, which the street is your stage, but
mm-hmm.
sometimes
So
that's
cool.
how, yeah, that's how you learn. I find that's how you learn best. And when you have to jump in feet first all the way. Like doing street work or doing stuff in Scotland, or like I have a new show that I'm like, I have done rehearsing, I don't want to do it, but I have to do it. And then you can feel yourself getting better the next time you do it.
Mm-hmm.
And you seeing that growth and feeling that growth so quickly is awesome, especially if you're busking, I assume, you're out there for a chunk of time, or if you're doing a show at a Renaissance festival and you have a couple shows, 4 shows a day, 3 shows a day, you do the same show, like it's going to get evolved before like as you go on that day. So being able to know that you're going to get more comfortable with it, and you can actually see that it's not instant gratification, but almost. I was also going to ask about other performance venues that you had. It was on my list before we talked about what we were going to ask about. Liv.
I remember some more. I've really been enjoying opening for like bands and stuff too. I got to open for one of my favorite bands last year, Off With Their Heads, which they're gonna be here in Texas on May 17th.
Off With Their Heads.
Off With Their Heads. And I got to open for them. I swallow a sword on stage for another band, Celtic and Nova. Sometimes I'll just, like, if I have free time, I'm like, you guys want a merch girl? And they're like, yes. And also swallow a sword during this song. And I'm like, So I really like opening for bands and stuff, and like just doing special events outside more than just Ren Fair.
I always forget that an opening act for a band doesn't have to be another band. And it's always fun when I'm reminded. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it's preferred that it's not another band, because I know that a lot of bands don't want anything similar to them opening for them. So if you just go completely outside of music, that's always fun.
I'm going to go way off the rails and tell a story really quick.
Yeah.
I went when Gwen Stefani went solo. My roommate in New York and I went to go see her at Madison Square Garden, and the opening band was Black Eyed Peas, and they were like singing whatever. They had done a song with Justin Timberlake and they were singing it, and then Justin Timberlake came on stage. He was there with his girlfriend at the time, Cameron Diaz, and he came and finished the song with them, and then he left, and then they were still doing their songs, and then they started saying funky a lot, and I was like, funky? No. And James Brown freaking walked out on stage. And he did a song with them.
That
was the
like a
opening
bonkers
band.
Concert.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was bonkers.
I'm going to talk about a very different concert, but that had one of my favorite opening acts ever. It was at, if anyone knows, the Jalopy Theater in Red Hook in Brooklyn. It is this tiny little theater and music space and tavern. And I was going there to see a klezmer band. And I found out later that it was one of the leading klezmer clarinetists who was leading this band. And first of all, that show was amazing because he starts off by making some terrible joke, and a woman in the back goes, "Boo!" And he goes, "Ma, I told you to wait in the car." And it turns out it was actually his mother. And they had this whole like yelling over the audience thing where he was like, "Yeah, she drove all the way here from Long Island. Did you take the Jackie, Mom?" And she was like, "No, there was too much traffic on the Jackie." And had this whole thing. It was beautiful. But their opener was this guy in suspenders and a little like boater hat who came out, and he had like this dead face, and then suddenly the lights rose on him and he went like, and I'm going to try, while still attached to my headphones, to imitate what he did. Some music came on, some very repetitive music, and he did this dance. For 17 minutes straight. And it was peak comedy because he never did anything else, but occasionally his face would just get a little more pained. And then sort of the music would start slowing down, and then it would speed up again. You're like, and it was genius. It was comedic genius, and I loved it. I loved every second of it.
It sounds very like Andy Kaufman style comedy.
Yep, absolutely.
That.
17 minutes. Round it.
I will say that I've been doing Ren Fair. Well, I went to my very first Ren Fair when I was 15. I started out, yay, twinsies. I went to Ren Fair when I was 15. The next year I worked as a gamer, and I think I was a gamer for 2 years, and then I joined cast when I was 16 or 17, and I was on cast for an amount of years, maybe 7, and then I was a mermaid for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, never again. And I can tell
Yeah,
you
mermaids
horror
and washing
stories of
well
the
wenches.
tanks.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I said I have tank horror stories and stuff, but that I don't want to keep you here for hours. So and
I am
then,
tempted to ask about them.
And then I'd like been doing like burlesque and sideshow in between all of that, and then my friend Steve-O, Hob the Troll, helped me come up with a proposal, and then I proposed my show, and I got it, and then I've been doing my show since 2018.
Oh, wow.
Nice. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
So
I was going to say that mermaids and
answer.
washing well wenches, I have so much respect for them, because I just feel like if I were wet for that much of the day, I would just have constant skin weirdness and like dermatitis and stuff like that.
I had like an ear infection that like made half of my face swell, and I looked like Marlon Brando on one side.
Oh, no.
The water, like you want the water to be treated, and then also on cold days you want the heater to work. On hot days you don't want the heater, and I've had where the heater was left on, and it was a hot day, so you're getting into hot water on a hot day. I've had where the heater was not working on really cold days, and I felt like I'm like, so this is what it was like on the Titanic. And like mouth blue. They're like, I like your lipstick. I'm not wearing any.
Oh no.
Mad respect for anyone who like mud shows, washing well wenches, mermaids. It's like that is not easy nor comfortable.
So right now we're at the Scarborough Renaissance Festival.
Yes.
You got 3 more weekends as of recording this, and then where do you go?
I go to California for the Kroneburg Renaissance Festival, and so I'll be there for June, and then I go to Ohio for the Great Lakes Medieval Faire. I'll be there for
I didn't know you did that fair.
Well, I do this year.
Oh,
Surprise!
I did it a couple years.
Yeah.
It's such a sweet festival.
I'm really excited.
Yeah, they got a lot of heart.
I'm really excited about it. And then Scotland, come back, go do the Pennsylvania Renaissance Festival in Mount Hope, and then I'm doing 2 weekends in Connecticut for the Connecticut Renaissance Festival, and then I go back to Michigan where I park my camper in my friend's backyard where they let me live for a little bit too. So that'll be October. Yes. Then I tour with Celtic Canova for a bit, sword swallowing and slinging t-shirts, and then throwing them at people. And then I'll be doing a weekend of the Louisiana Renaissance Festival.
Oh, great.
And then that's December.
But so if you want to find the Pinwheel Sideshow, it's gonna be near you at some point this year.
Hitting all the corners.
I know, right?
Sorry, let me just tell you my year trajectory.
That's fine, because people love to see you. You have people come to your first show at Scarborough like 10 minutes early, dressed as you.
Oh, I'm tattooed on 4 people, but one
One.
But there's a family. They're so flippin' awesome. Their daughter dresses like me. The dad has me tattooed on his leg, and on the last day of the Ren Fair this year, he's gonna have me sign it, and he's gonna go straight to the tattoo shop to get Pippsy Pinwheel on the tattoo.
That's so fun.
That's awesome.
And
they're so cool. Like, the whole family's so cool. The wife used to be a wrestler, and like they're so cool.
And that's what I was gonna be like. But you've known these people, you know them. They're not. This is not a creepy tattoo.
No.
Yeah. So we all know the creepy patrons.
I'm tattooed on someone I've never met. because a tattoo artist follows my Instagram and he really likes my style, and he's like, hey, I'm working on a circus piece for somebody, and can I use this photo? And I'm like, yes, send
That's
it to
cool.
me, and I'll do my best to not have them regret having me on them.
Does the person know that you are on their tattoo, or do they just think it's like a random circus person?
I think he told them. Maybe.
Maybe.
That's a good question, though, Liv. Like, does that person know, or they're just like, oh, circus person?
Another friend of mine who does like art and stuff, and like I'm one of her muses. She has me on her forearm in her art style. And then lastly, the fourth person that I know of, I was at the Michigan Renaissance Festival. They ran over and they're like, this is gonna sound weird, and I'm like, shoot.
We're at a Renaissance Festival.
Bring it. They're like, you're on my leg. And I'm like, what? She's like, you're tattooed on my leg. And they pull their leg up and they're like, it's like me, but with like a knife in front of my face. And like one side is clown and like the other side is, I think like the reflection and stuff. And it's really cool. And I'm like, that's awesome. Please tag me.
That's so cool.
That does sound cool. Joe, you famous.
Uh-huh. It's that's so funny, like the difference in regions, like what's okay and what's not, because Samas is performing here in Oklahoma, and they got an urgent message from the entertainment director to not say goddamn in their song. And it's like, they just say like, goddamn nightmare. And we were like, what? And we're like, goddamn is not a bad word. Okay. But then because they were told not to, and so now they don't say it, Asia came to join our set at the end, and I was like, and if you haven't met her, this is Ozzy the Rogue. She's the captain of the red team. She's a goddamn nightmare. She plays the drums. And everyone just goes, oopsies.
Whoops-a-doodle.
So that brings us to the end of this episode of Ren Talks. So we're going to do some outgoing introductions and tell you where you can find us on the World Wide Web. So my name is Olivia Harding. I perform as Liv the Druid with Music the Gathering, and you can find us on all the things at Music the Gathering Band.
And I am Nicole Skelly, and my show is The Gwendolyn Show. You can find me online on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, Tickety Talk, and I have a Discord server that you can join if I invite you.
And my name is Natalie Grist, and I do the Pinwheel Sideshow at Renaissance festivals. You can find me online under Pinwheel Sideshow.
I was so sure you were going to say you can find me in hell, but no. Thank you so much for joining us, Natalie. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening, everyone. And we'll see you in the next episode where our third host, Victoria Van Arnhem, will be joining us. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.